Welcome to the Movie Swap Before You Die podcast. I am your host, Dylan, along with my cousin and co-host,
Gab.
And today we have a guest, so we're going to hop past all our normal spiel. We have Kyle from the Film Reelists.
I don't get the spiel?
You don't get the spiel. You don't need the spiel.
Okay, I'll spiel. Fine. You want a little spiel? I'll spiel.
I want a little spiel, yeah.
Ollie McSpiel over here. Go ahead.
That was a good one, Dill. What's the spiel? Welcome to the Movie Swap Before You Die podcast. My name is Dylan, Gab. And today we are going to be talking about a movie that was nominated by Kyle. Kyle coming on fresh off of his own incredible movie podcast, here to talk about the 1998, Dylan?
Correct.
Ooh, 1998. Dill, fun fact, I don't know if you remember, this is a movie that you and I saw in the movie theaters together.
Is that true?
That is true. I remember it like it was yesterday. And then we couldn't stop sword fighting, and one of us got really fucking messed up by a plastic sword, and that person's name is Zach. And today we are here to talk about the 1998 Mask of Zorro. Kyle, before we get into anything else, why don't you tell us in the briefest possible way what this movie is about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Oh, that's really tough. I thought for a minute you'd be like, and here's Zach. But
there are no surprise guests today.
Oh,
Yeah,
no. All right. So the Mask of Zorro.
But the test results are in, and you are the father.
Of three. Oh man, in this economy, I guess we have different economies. That's neither here nor there. So the Mask of Zorro is a character from the 40s this is the 90s reboot of this long-running franchise. He is a masked Latinx man. Zorro is Spanish for the fox, and he fights for the common man.
Huh.
Okay.
I didn't know most of that. That was mostly news to me.
Well, the only thing you were wrong about there was not in the 40s. I believe the first thing written was 1919.
Wow.
Oh, specifically with the character. Yeah. You are.
Which makes sense because, well, it's going to be an opinion thing. So I won't get into it yet, but let's get into the IMDb plot summary so that we can get their version of what the Mask of Zorro is about. A young thief seeking revenge for his brother's death is trained by the once great, aging Zorro, who is pursuing his own vengeance.
Yeah.
That's,
all right,
that's
IMDb.
as succinct as you can get. Yeah, they nailed that one.
Yeah. Cool.
Kyle.
Taglines?
Well, I was going to ask Kyle if he wants to hear taglines.
Oh, sorry.
Of course.
Only if Kyle wants.
Well, one thing I was going to suggest that I always think is fun, and I think you two maybe could play it back and forth, is the plot synopsis between IMDb and Letterboxd. Sometimes feel like somebody copied your homework but changed it a bit, and you could do IMDb or Letterboxd.
That's interesting. I just recently signed up for Letterboxd because I feel like people told me I should, and I basically just made it a movie to watch before you die. Letterboxd, essentially.
Perfect.
But I feel like I can't use it because the movies I'm normally watching during the week are for this podcast, and I'm like, well, that's spoilers for the one person who might ever see it.
That's true. That's true.
But for movies we're not going to do on,
is.
It's just reviewing movies, basically. It's like 1 to 5 stars on a movie you just watched. They call it social media, but I'm like, I'm not socializing with anyone. The only
It's
person
film Twitter without the arguing.
Exactly.
Thank
the only
you.
person who is friend of the show and creator of our music, Scott Interrante, he's also on there. So I added Scott.
Oh, I didn't know that. Hi, Scott. Miss you. Interesting. Okay. All right. Listen. Taglines.
Okay. So we got 4 taglines on this one. Let's see if any of them are good. Gab is very critical of taglines in general.
I hate taglines.
When freedom is a memory and justice is outlawed, the just must become outlaws.
No. Go ahead.
That's not a tagline. That's so
Thank you.
okay. Can I give you a little Kyle story? I don't.
Please.
It's your podcast, so at any point, be like, you've talked enough. That's why there's no co-host on my show. Is the reason this movie's burned in my brain is the trailer for this had I couldn't tell you what movie it was on, but back when they had like narrators over like in a world, one man, blah, 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 that tagline that you just said, Dylan, was in the trailer.
That makes sense because I could hear when freedom is a memory and justice is outlawed, the just must become outlaws. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was. And so do you guys go through the IMDb trivia? Because I don't know if this one's in here, which is
Oh, I
in
sure
the either teaser or theatrical. I can't remember which one. The music was clipped from a Hans Zimmer movie, which was the prototype for the Pirates of the Caribbean theme song. It's from a movie called Drop Zone, starring Wesley Snipes. And if you listen to both like key character themes, they're exactly the same.
That's just like
Oh
we were
my
talking about
God.
Aliens recently, and Aliens in one of the Star Trek movies. Like I'm trying to remember who did the Aliens music. It's either Jerry
Well,
Goldsmith or
it
James
probably
Horner.
would have
Just copied his
varied.
own music.
Yeah.
Like he essentially was like, "I'm copying me. I can do that. You can't plagiarize yourself."
That's true.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not a tagline. That's a like a I don't know.
It's too long
It's
a
not
sentence
tagline.
for a
Yeah,
tagline. The
yeah.
rest of them are even more succinct.
Okay, go ahead.
No one has seen his face, but everyone knows his mark.
Yeah, that Z,
She's
right? That's like
insufferable.
the
That works. That's a
No,
good
no, no,
one.
no. Listen to me, goddammit. The that's I'm doing the Z thing. It happens what, 3 times? Once on his neck, once in the fire, and then the other one he does an M. So 4. Okay, 4. Well, listen, either way, I don't know that it's enough times that we can reference his mark like
He
it's
also
a
does it on that
character.
wall. Like it's
All right,
obviously
what's the next?
it's his thing. It's his shtick.
What's the next tagline?
This is like clearly just a marketing one. This summer, justice leaves its mark.
You know what? I gotta say, I don't hate that. If it was just justice leaves its mark.
The sword, the mask, the legend. He isn't just one man. He's Zorro.
If it were just the da 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 da, I'd be in.
So just the sword, the mask, the legend.
Sword,
That
mask,
works.
legend. That's all you need to know.
You see what I have to deal with.
Well, here's the thing. Why doesn't it mention his whip? He has one.
Oh, he uses the whip a lot.
Only the older one uses the whip a lot.
Well, I mean, probably.
Like,
Yeah,
we
that's
see-
probably true.
We see Alejandro, the Antonio Banderas younger Zorro, use it, I think, once or twice near the end.
It's
But-
at least twice. Yeah.
We see Anthony Hopkins' version. He's a master with the whip, which I know
yeah.
he apparently
He's a whipper.
fought really hard for it.
Mhm.
Really?
Yes,
The candle trick is practical.
he practiced a
Wow.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Him and Michelle Pfeiffer, mid 90s. They went to a lot of whip clubs, I guess.
Damn. That's wild. Okay. Pin in that because I want to talk about it again later. Are those all the taglines?
Yes. Should we dive straight into opinions and we can talk more about what it's about in our opinions?
Please.
In this critic's opinion,
That's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
I know everybody's about to have some major opinions, but the thing I noticed the most, besides, oh my God, this prologue is amazing, is this movie is the closest we will ever get, and Gab is not going to care about this at all, but this is Batman Beyond.
Yeah, I don't care about this.
Yeah, it is.
That's not a slight at all. I was like,
No.
oh my God, they did Batman Beyond. It's Zorro passing the mantle down to another Zorro after he's gotten older and they both need revenge for something. I was like, holy shit. Alejandro's Terry McGinnis.
What came first?
The Mask of Zorro.
Well, I mean, the prototype of Zorro, not the spirit, the one without the mask, the one with Alec Baldwin. What was that
Phantom?
one? No, Phantom's the one with
Billy
Billy
Zane?
Zane. What is the one with Alec Baldwin? The Shadow. Those were all influences for Bob Kane's and Bill Finger's creation of Batman. So, it's a snake eating its own tail.
Yes, and this clearly, though, I mean, in some versions of Batman, you see his parents are taking him to the Mark of Zorro in theaters.
Mhm.
So clearly, Zorro is inspirational to Batman.
Oh yeah. Well, it's copying your work and changing the secret identity.
Yes, he even has a bat cave. He has a fox cave.
The den?
I don't care what he calls it. It's a cave.
It
And
is
I
a
was like,
cave.
oh my God, he has a bat cave. And then once he's like, I've got to get my horse. I'm like, the horse is his Batmobile.
Well, and he has a secret door, which is the only, for me, timeline wise, where it's like, how does he have a fireplace that moves.
Because he's
Yeah.
Zorro.
Yeah.
He is Zorro.
There's a couple times where like something happens that's a bit of a logic leap, and you're like, Zorro could do that.
Mhm.
I don't know, Gab. I'm waiting for you to say something, but I was bought in the first moment swords started clashing. Well, it makes sense that you're like, we saw this as kids because we must have been like 6 years old. And I gotta tell you, I immediately was like, it was straight into my veins, like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Dill, just so you know, Gog and Pop took me, you, and Zach to go see this movie in the movie theaters. And then we went to McDonald's, and then we went home to my house because I lived with them. And I had all those like plastic Disney swords. And we just, I mean, we were insufferable with the swords. And I remember somebody hit Zach so hard, he got a welt on his arm, and it was like game over, no more swords. But it was
Zach was probably
easily
Governor Montero, that son of a bitch.
no question. He was always the bad guy. You know, I don't want to say still to this day, but if I had a plastic sword, I know who I'm going after.
Run.
You know? But it was like we just couldn't wait to get home to start beating the shit out of each other with swords. And I kind of like still felt that, where it was like, oh my God, I want to like fight someone. I will say the first thing that really struck me about this was they didn't at all try to make Anthony Hopkins not a white Englishman. Like even a little bit.
He's got
They
some
gave him
like
the mustache.
bronzer on and some tanning.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he is gold as the sun in the end
Yeah.
of the movie.
Yeah.
But like they were kind of just like, just it's fine. Just go ahead.
I mean, that sort of fits in line with the tradition of the character, though. Like, if you go back through the history of actors playing Zorro, I mean, Hollywood has a history of whitewashing everything under the sun.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that in the history of the character, you have some like a knighted actor, like obviously of English descent, handing it over to the first Latin X actor to play, or I think he's Spanish, or Antonio's from Spain, but
he's Spanish.
Spanish. So the first character or actor to actually portray this Spanish character.
Which
That
the
is
character
cool.
is Mexican, but still, this is
Yeah.
so much like obviously
Much
it's
closer.
Yes,
Yeah.
Much
and
closer, yeah.
when you consider the fact that this character's been around since 1919, has had media appearances like movies, shows, whatever, since the 1940s, the fact that this is the first non-white guy to play him, you're like, wow, that's almost an impressive streak. They tried to do it for so long.
Yeah.
Also,
That
I
is
didn't
very true.
realize how much this is just also like Puss in Boots is just Zorro. I was like, oh,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
cute.
Here's a question for you. What do you think are like Antonio Banderas's like top 3 things that he's most famous for?
This,
Mm-hmm.
Puss in Boots,
Mm-hmm.
and
what's
Spy
the third?
Kids.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Spy
said that to
Kids.
someone and they were insulted.
I was about to say like Desperado, which
It's a
Right.
generational thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
desperate. Well, and because the film was initially, if I think I know this, yeah, originally it was going to be produced by Spielberg, and Robert Rodriguez was going to direct.
at one point Spielberg was going to direct. He never did. He did end up producing it. I was going to say this in the facts, but I'll say it now. Do you know who Spielberg at one point was going to cast as Zorro?
No, I don't.
Gab?
I don't know.
Tom Cruise, who was like, I should not play Zorro.
Thank God.
He could have
First of
played
all,
Puss in Boots. He's about as tall.
I was going to say he's not tall enough to be threatening to anybody, but yeah, Puss in Boots, he'd do great. Yeah, the dad from Spy Kids. And you know what? Dare I say, the very sexy dad from Spy Kids.
Yeah, but I am so happy you brought that up. So, as we talked about off the show, I wanted to do a little bit of homework and listen to your first episode, which was on Raiders of the Lost Ark. And you talked about Harrison Ford being 38 and very good looking. Do you happen to know how old Antonio Banderas was for this?
You bet your ass I do, because I did the math and he was 38 years old. And I was like, damn, look at him. He's almost 40 and hot as fuck. Let's go.
That blew my mind the first time I looked that up.
Crazy.
I
He
clearly
looks
did the
like a
math
little
wrong
kid.
because
He
I
looks
was like, he was
24.
28, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, you guys are right.
38 years old and like a
Oh
baby
my
face.
God. I'm 31 and I feel so terrible right now.
Yeah, Dylan, you look terrible. I'm just kidding.
Compared to Antonio Banderas, certainly.
I
Compared
mean,
to the
yeah.
average man, certainly. Compared to
Compared to the pig on the farm, still not great.
Can we talk about obviously there's a place for nuanced portrayals of characters, and that's a great thing. But this is such a clear-cut good versus evil, and there's something great about that because the moment I just wrote down like every fucked up thing Montero and Captain Love said, and I was like, these villains are villaining so hard. Oh my God. From the moment Montero goes, children should never have to see the things we do, I was like, oh, you're really evil. And I had seen this movie, but probably not since whenever The Legend of Zorro came out. So like 2005. And I gotta tell you, I immediately was like, why don't we make movies like this anymore? And why did we kind of forget about this movie? I feel like, because this is not a movie I thought about in at least 15 years.
Well, I'd like to say we had sort of like a backlog of having to do a lot of episodes very close together just based on schedules and stuff. So it was Saturday when I said to Dylan, what movie do I need to watch for Tuesday? And he said The Mask of Zorro. And so I was like, it was a very quick turnaround for me. But it's so interesting that you had chosen this movie because Scott, who we mentioned did the music for us, came on and did an episode. And one of the ideas that he had was The Mask of Zorro. And he mentioned that it was like a movie he had watched again recently and it was so good. And somebody else mentioned it to me. And I thought, like, is this like a TikTok thing where The Mask of Zorro is like making a comeback? Not to sound old, but like,
Oh,
I don't
you
know what's
sound old.
trendy on TikTok. Like, are the kids into this now? Because it doesn't feel like it aged, not that it aged badly, but it's not like it aged particularly well. It's not like there's anything in it that like kids today would be like, oh my God, it's like it's hitting, or whatever kids say.
Zorro has Riz, okay?
Yeah. Like he has Riz. It was so interesting that a lot of people around our age were all like, oh my God, yeah, that's a great movie. And Dylan, I also hadn't thought about it, although I did have it on VHS and watched it a lot, but I hadn't thought about it in 15, 20 years.
I watch this movie probably every 18 months.
Wow.
I
I'm
think
just
a lot
picturing
of
like a calendar reminder, like it's been a year and a
No,
half,
it was-
so I have to watch.
I had it on VHS. It was one of my You're Sick movies.
Yep.
And I think it particularly, like, I'm assuming we're all in the same general age group, like depending on what you were, I hate using this word, but exposed to in terms of like film and TV, there's like a sweet spot of these pulpy action adventures. Like Star Wars is clearly the fantasy side of that, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of my favorite movies, also is in that vein. And there is such a sweet spot for these movies. And I think what's most frustrating is you could probably name on one hand the kinds of films like this. And for me, that's why it stands the test of time, which is like, I would say the closest thing to reaching this type of movie is the first Pirates of the Caribbean, which came out 20 years ago at this point. But even in the sequel, The Legend of Zorro, which came out like 7 years later, it's a much different movie. And I think you mentioned the way that the villainy is handled. Like everything in this is handled pretty straight-laced. Like you have the comedy in it, but for the most part, it's good versus evil. And you have almost that melodrama you would expect from something written in the 40s or the 50s, right? Like, he stole my daughter, I must kill him. And like, this guy killed my brother. And like, scenes like that, when not done well, specifically in other films, Martin Campbell being somebody who went on to direct 2 Bond films, or he would have done Goldeneye before this, did Mask of Zorro, and then went on to do Casino Royale. Like the balance of tone, I think, is really effective. Not to mention, as we've already stated, the sexiness of Antonio Banderas. And I'm going to put this out there. The chemistry between him and Catherine Zeta-Jones is the hottest on-screen chemistry up until Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone in The Amazing Spider-Man. Like, it's palpable on screen.
I want to comment on that. Some of their kissing is wild. Like, there's a lot of like a lot of big mouthing, and my boyfriend and I were both like, is that they're going in. Like, that's hard. It was like, wow.
Well,
But
they
I will say this. Sorry, please.
no, keep going.
We're gonna comment on the mouthing, please.
I'll get back to it. Keep going.
Okay. All I was gonna say was my boyfriend watches a lot of these movies with me, and one of the things that he'll say about some of them, I think he said this about Alien. He said it about, I don't know, a couple of them, mostly your pick still, is that we just don't make movies like this anymore. Like
Yes.
we used to have movies where it was a story, you had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it was exciting. And then at the end of the movie, it was over, and you were like, wow, that was cool. And now everything is like a franchise, or they're trying to get you to come back, or, it's not concise as a story. It's just a money-making machine. And this was truly like a great story, like just a story.
And I do see how they were able to do a sequel afterwards, but you can watch just this movie and it is a wonderful time. And this is also
Yeah.
one of those movies that they spent a big budget on. And because this is before really the big CGI boom as much, you see every fucking cent on that screen in actuality. We had talked about last week Christmas Vacation. Now, Christmas Vacation, one of the biggest things I
Hold on.
remarked about it.
Pause. Kyle,
Pausing.
how do you feel about Christmas Vacation?
I think it's fine. Unfortunately, it's difficult to view certain people through the rose-colored glasses, being somebody who's a diehard Community fan. And
Yeah.
I Chevy's not done his legacy many favors. And so like my wife loves it. So I will sit there quietly, but it's not a Christmas film I'm gonna throw on if I had to pick 5, if
All
not
right.
Thank you,
10.
Kyle.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle's wife, really. But that's fine. Go ahead.
Where was I? And one of the things I remarked about Christmas Vacation was, oh my God, that one stunt they do where they drive the car underneath the semi truck is amazing. And I was watching this movie, a few days after we had recorded that episode, and I was like, holy shit, the stunts in this movie. The sword fighting is amazing, the horseback riding is amazing. You've got people crashing into things, you've got explosions that are clearly real explosions. Like you feel every single thing that's being done on screen, and it's wonderful. And like we said, the story is not complex, but it gives you everything that you need.
Yeah.
You have the one bad guy who killed our young Zorro, Alejandro's brother. We have the other bad guy, Governor Montero, who killed our older Zorro's wife and stole his daughter, which just killing the wife would have been the villainy move. But the villainy cherry on top of the villainy Sunday is I'm also going to steal your daughter and raise her as my own. That is some super villain shit.
It's a Bond movie. Like if you look at the framework, you've got like Governor Raphael, and then with Capitan Love, like he's a Bond henchman. He cuts people up and he drinks them.
Yes, we see again. What a super villain move. He has Alejandro's brother's head in a fucking jar that he's like dipping a glass in and drinking out of, and he's like, "You want some?" Because he's like testing him, like, "I know you're him. I know you're his brother. Come on." And the way that he's like not gonna bite at that, and he just leaves, and then he's like, "Oh, I hate the shit out of that guy." You're like, "Yeah, I hate the shit out of him too. I can't wait to see him die." Which we're gonna get into spoilers for everything, but I'm not gonna talk about it yet. We'll get there.
That's fair. Yeah, I think it is just a really simple story. I hot take, and please tell me if you disagree, and I'm sure you will. It felt like a lot of exposition. Like we could have gotten there a little quicker, and I think we could have wrapped it a little quicker, but it was like a lot of, okay, so there's something bad happening here, and then okay, now we got this hero coming in, and then okay, he's old, and okay, something bad happened to him, and then okay, here's that young kid again. And I kind of would have liked it if we could have taken it from 217 to an even 2. I'd have been like, yes.
I would say the same thing, that you probably could bring it from 2 hours and 17 minutes to 2 hours. Like maybe you don't need Three Finger Jack or
Disagree.
I saw on your face.
No way. I mean, I know every single line of dialogue to this movie, so I watched it alone this time. But I think what I found most impressive was we talked about the prologue, that's 12 minutes and you're in it. Like I'd say most movies for pacing now, that's the first hour, if not 45 minutes.
Kyle, I literally want to tell you, I wrote down in my notes, I'm 10 minutes in, and I think Zorro is so fucking cool.
It's maddening. Like you talked about the practical elements. I watched this up here because this is the better TV that I have. It's in my space. And the one of the practical stunts when he jumps off the building, and I watch a ton of corridor stuntman react, and you get a really great insight into this stuff. I don't understand how that was filmed and that guy's legs didn't shoot through his kidneys.
Well, the way that they must be doing it, from what I saw, was it's wire work. So he's falling most of the way, and then they ease up when his legs are about to hit the ground, basically. But I don't
know if they would have had flawless. A descender in 97. That's the thing. Like, the ground has to have been padded, but even still, he just gives her.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. However they did any of the stunts, like I saw that one of the stunts they did was during the horseback. There's a great horse scene where Zorro is taking 5 or 6 of these evildoers off their horses, and the last guy, he jumps over a log while he's standing on 2 horses, which somebody clearly is doing, and it's fucking spectacular. And the last guy hits into a log, and I even saw the director talking about it. He was like, he must have worn a really big chest pad because we just slammed him into a log. Like, I'm like, wow, some guy actually was just like, again, I'll die for the Mask of Zorro.
Wow. So everything in this movie was practical.
I think there's one scene near the ending where I was, because I had to space it into 2 viewings. So just before we started, I was finishing the climax. And I think there's one instance of background replacement just based on safety.
Uh-huh.
But like 99% of the sword fighting is Antonio Banderas. And it's my favorite little fact. I don't want, again, if I'm stepping on toes, Dylan, just tell me to stop talking. But Bob Anderson, who was the swords master for this, says that he goes all the way back to the 40s, like Errol Flynn, who was the original Robin Hood. So this guy's been doing it forever, taught Jedis to be Jedis. He goes all the way back. And he says that Antonio is the best swords fighter since Errol Flynn. So that's
okay. It was just my first fact.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Wow.
So
he also trained with the Spanish Olympic team for 4 months.
Yes. And you can
Antonio
still
Banderas?
see he can do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Very sexy.
Like if somebody's invading Antonio Banderas' home, he probably has a sword on the wall. You know what I mean? He's probably ready.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. So Dylan, do you have any more information for me on this double horseback riding situation?
No, not particularly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Other
a
than
full
it's
stunt
awesome.
rider. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Like crazy unbelievable. Damn, I was hoping you were going to be like, yeah, that was Antonio Banderas. How about Anthony Hopkins? Because I got to be honest with you, in the beginning, I don't know, the prologue, he does some things that I'm like, either he's like pretty good for an old man, or they had a stunt guy and they were like, listen, he's old. Don't be too exciting.
Obviously, they have a stunt guy. So there's times where Don Diego de la Vega is whipping up to a flag and you're making fun of me for saying his name. What
yes,
did I do?
and the attempt at the accent. It was
I didn't
beautiful.
attempt an accent. Okay, whatever.
Oh, okay.
You rolled some letters.
There were no letters to roll. R's you roll. He has no
De la
R in the
Vega.
name.
De la Vega.
Don Diego de la Vega.
You both have done it more than I have now. You both are wrong. I was right.
Okay. Keep
well, they take their wife's name in this film.
They do?
They do.
Really?
Yeah.
Support your facts, sir.
Okay, well, so this is a spoiler, I guess, for Legend of Zorro, but in that film, I'm fairly certain this is correct, because he's a Morieta, right? Like he's Alejandro Morieta. But and so Elena is a De La Vega, and then in Legend of Zorro, I've got the wiki here. Yeah, so in Legend of Zorro, Antonio Banderas' character is Don Alejandro De La Vega.
Oh, interesting.
And that's not just because he and his brother were fugitives?
Maybe, but I mean, regardless, he has a name that was not his, right? Because his fake name is something else.
Yes, I don't remember what that was fully, but I do love that he's like, I'll come up with a fake name, but I'll leave my first name. My Captain Love was immediately like, wait a second. That's the same first name of the guy I was chasing.
That's really funny. All right, what else do we want to talk about? Because I have a whole subsection here that I'm ready for, but only after we've
Well, I have a
finished our
small
opinions.
subsection of quotes that are just pure evil.
Please.
You would murder 3 innocent men just to capture me. I would murder 100 innocent men just to capture you.
Yeah, but sidebar, haven't you ever felt that way about something or someone? Like, have you ever gone to Target and you're like, I would fucking murder and pillage an entire community just to find this thing so I could go the fuck home?
What's Target?
Really?
I'm joking.
Yeah,
We
I was
have-
like, that can't be true.
It's like they don't have Target in Canada?
no,
What?
we did, but it was such bad supply chain issues, they all shut down.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what though? It's honestly better for you financially. Like you personally, it's a better
Probably.
situation. Yeah.
And don't you
has
mean
everything.
Target?
Oh, of course, obviously. Of course.
Bury the body, bag the head. That's some supervillainy type stuff.
Yeah.
Where's the next one? Where did we find all these people? Anywhere we wanted.
Oh, yeah, that one gave me a little bit of a chill.
Oh my god, and Captain Love, maybe the most evil line of the movie. You're doing well. Your brother would have shot himself by now. His brother, to avoid capture, kills himself and he tells his brother to run away. Obviously not in that order because he's trying to postpone them. When Captain Love hits Zorro with that fucking line, you already want Captain Love to die. But you are in that moment, like, you are as furious as Zorro. You're like, kill him, kill him. By the time we do get there, you're very happy to see these villains get their just desserts, which we do have to talk about how they get their just desserts. But Gab, what was this subsection you wanted to present
No,
to
no,
us?
no. Finish just desserts, please.
What, so I should go into how they die?
Please.
Okay. Kyle, you may be able to describe this better. You've seen the movie far more times than the both of us.
Okay. So who am I discussing first?
Well, first, what we're discussing is they have the gold mine and they're
Yep.
taking gold out of California to pay Santa Ana in gold that is taken out of his own land to buy
Technically his.
California.
Yes.
That's their evil plot.
Mhm.
So at the very end, for no reason, they are blowing up the mine very close to the top. They're getting the last of the gold out of there. They weren't, they were in a rush for no reason.
Time management, not
rush.
one of their skills. Oh.
Yes. Rush.
Thank you.
What this leads them to do is you have just for some reason this mechanism that is just a hanging thing of gold at some point.
It's an elevator.
It is an. I'm an idiot. It's an
A hanging
elevator.
mechanism of sorts.
It's
It's
some
a
sort
rope
of
attached
lever
to this,
and pulley system.
and there's a man in a giant hamster wheel. Just
Some sort of rudimentary risey lowy thing. Not my best moment. And somehow we have Zorro and Captain Love end up fighting on top of the elevator, which is stuck in position. And above them, we have Don Diego de la Vega. Was that good enough for you two?
Yes, thank you. How
Thank you.
very white and American of you.
Don Diego de la Vega, I tell you what, is fighting Montero. And how exactly is it that he ends up in the position with Montero where he's able to get
we're
him?
we're in full spoilers.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's after he has Elena threatening he's going to shoot her that De La Vega throws his sword down, and then so he gets like clearly shot but not a kill blow, and so he's fighting on the defensive the whole time. And that's one of the elements I liked, is I think the escalation of threat for both fights gradually is just increasing over time. Right. And the visceral nature of the fights is also the same. Like you see that Don De La Vega is on defense. Like he's not even trying to attack at that point because he's deathly injured. And they work their way over to the top of the elevator where Diego falls down because the horses they cut loose once they realize that the mine's about to blow up with Zorro there. And as he gets knocked down, he sees that all of the trappings for the horses are there. And so he, I guess, hits a rudimentary e-brake off, and then the weight of it pulls Governor Raphael down there. In the meantime, you've had the fight scene between Capitan Love and Alejandro, And it's one of my favorite elements is how they're fighting around the thing, going back and forth. And eventually, Alejandro's mask gets knocked off because he wants to see Capitan Love with his own face, not hidden behind the mask. And he knocks his own sword out of his hand and then stabs straight through him.
And then as that happens, we get Alejandro jumping out of the way just in time for these two men who have had their plot to be buy this country with gold that they're stealing from the land anyway. You have Montero fall down on top of Captain Love, who is screaming like a bitch. And you just have them both plummet to the ground with gold falling down upon them. And you can even see like there's clearly a dummy dressed as one of them, like clearly falling. And I'm like, yeah, because you want to see it happen. You're like, fuck those two. They die real well.
Yeah.
They die real well.
It is. It's a good death. And then, of course, you have the smoke clears, and there's Alejandro and Elena. And they're each holding a child, and all of the mine workers are walking out behind them. It's very cinematic.
Well, we haven't talked about the score yet.
Score it up.
So James Horner's worked on a lot of iconic films, Titanic probably being the most for a lot of people, although I'd argue it's the Canadian Celine Dion song. But overall, I think the elements of, again, I by no means am a musician, but all the different Spanish and Mexican instruments playing with it. And in particular, one thing that I really feel we've lost, particularly you were talking about, they don't make movies like this anymore, is character themes. And every time Zorro's theme plays, like, you know, it's Zorro. And then if you have the romantic relationship, which we do here in the beginning between Don de la Vega and Esmeralda, then is played in the mirroring situations between Alejandro and Elena.
Yeah, that is really, really like unique to this style of movie. And it's gone.
Well, and another cool
gone.
thing
They just don't do
is
it anymore.
there's many scenes in the movie that are just scored by the sound of dancers' feet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just the sound of like flamenco dancing, just the feet.
Huh. I didn't notice that at all.
Well, it's not a thing that you are going to notice, but it's a thing that just elevates it, and it makes sense when it's happening, and you are just drawn even more in.
Yeah. Yeah, just the feet. Feet finder. How desperate would you need to be for your wife to just start making feet finder profiles? How desperate?
For herself?
Just like to sell for money.
I mean, they're feet. Like, unless Quentin Tarantino is your number one purchaser, like, whatever. They're feet.
I mean, I think Quentin Tarantino being your number one purchaser is a meal ticket for the rest of your life.
How much is she making is the question.
Well, you gotta see the value. You know what I mean?
Because I don't need to be desperate at all. If she's making enough, that I can stop doing my job.
That's the thing. I keep having these conversations with my friend. Like, there's really no one will know it's you. It seems like easy money, you know? Anyway, yeah, feet. Interesting. Sometimes we get mail to our apartment that is addressed to like Fabulous Feet Inc. And I'm like, oh man, they made an LLC for their feet finder. No question. No question. What else would we like to talk about before I get into mine?
I was going to say, I hope that wasn't your subsection that you need.
Yeah, my subsection is about feet today. No, I'd like to do a subsection that I have titled The Recast of Zorro.
Oh God.
And I recast this movie. Now, I want to start by saying Antonio Banderas cannot be recast. He is in.
Well, he would. Well, I've heard him say before that he would be willing to play the Anthony Hopkins part if they were like going to make another version of this.
He is 63.
Yeah,
Still
he's not
sexy.
Zorro anymore.
No, still sexy though. Sexier than Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, but yes, it's not much of a competition between the two. I'm sorry, Anthony Hopkins.
The chalk drawn on mustache and soul patch didn't work for you, Gab?
It did.
There's a moment in this movie where Alejandro pulls off the mustache, and I had no idea up until that moment that it wasn't a real mustache, and I was very thrown off by it.
There's a moment. This is, again, I've seen this movie countless times, when he does his first like mission as Zorro to go get the horse, where after he returns, you see him and there's one profile shot, so you're seeing him like this, and you can see the like soul patch hanging off.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that no one is immune to like the bad, sweaty, fake mustache thing. Like it doesn't matter how big your budget is, though that shit just will not hang on.
Well, I mean, this is why Henry Cavill wasn't allowed to shave his.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So who are we recasting?
Okay, so I want to
Everyone
start.
else?
Not everyone. I got
I've
three.
already thought of my two mains.
Is this now? Like we're making the movie right now?
No,
Today.
this doesn't exist in any kind of time or space. This is just plug and play people. Yeah.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
you didn't tell me this was a fantasy
That makes it
draft
way
scenario.
more difficult.
Yeah, no, it's fantasy draft.
I think that makes it way easier. Because I'm still keeping Antonio Banderas then, because there's nobody better for this role.
Don't act like that's a hot take. I literally came into this saying Antonio Banderas
I know, that's
stays.
why I thought what would make it interesting was we have to pick actors working now.
Oh, well, we can if you want, but that's not what I did on my couch when I was watching this movie. So let me say my piece, and then we can play your stupid version of the game. Okay? I invented the game.
Well,
all right, number
Kyle, we'll
one.
let you keep thinking. Gab, go ahead with yours.
Old Zorro. At first, I said, fuck it, Liam Neeson.
So you
Liam
just
Neeson.
decided to go way wider.
But then,
It's
no,
like,
Dylan.
I'm going to take away the English and I'm going to put him in Ireland.
Yep. But then I thought, you know what?
I am
If
Don
I'm doing
Diego
it,
de la Vega.
I'm going all the way. And I said, sorry, Liam Neeson, we've gone in a different direction. Get Michael Caine on the line. He is now old Zorro. Michael Caine.
I can kind of
That's
see
where
it.
I'm going.
I can kind of see it when he was a younger man.
The problem is he's just old man. Like,
yeah, but he could move.
In Arthur, maybe.
If I think of him
Okay.
around like the time of like Jaws the Revenge, I could see it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, anytime you want. I think he's always been old. Michael Caine. The what is his name? The statesman. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Whatever. As long as it's Michael Caine.
The statesman Montero.
Montero, thank you. Ready for this?
Sure.
'Tis the season, baby. Alan Rickman.
Okay, I was gonna say maybe one of these actors shouldn't be white, but even in The Mask of Zorro, it's a guy named Stuart Wilson.
Yeah. We're going Alan Rickman. I'm putting him in. I think he is perfect for the sort of like moody, evil, like picture like Nakatomi Plaza, but instead we're, in Mexico.
Like, you could have shot the wife and gone like, I'm going to count to 3. There will not be a
Yes.
4.
Yes.
He did remind me of Alan Rickman a little bit.
I mean, he is the sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Men of Thieves, or King of Thieves. The
Alan
one with Kevin Costner. Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen that.
I totally see that working though. I didn't think of somebody from Montero, and I feel like I should have now.
The problem is Gab, you've made this like all of time.
Yes.
Yeah, I
yes.
felt really proud about the fact that I like on the top of my head came up with 2 actors for my Zorro and Elena, and I was like, I've nailed this, Dylan. And then you were like, anytime ever. I was like, fuck.
Okay, well, I have one more.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Can we start from the beginning? Because I got totally lost.
Yeah. So let me recap for you.
Okay, so Gab's old Zorro, it was going to be Liam Neeson, but now is
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
My name is Michael Caine.
Listen, Alejandro.
What's the? Have you ever seen the two? I don't.
That
Corey's
Governor
gonna be so upset
Montero.
with me.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yes, there are 2. There's this like famous YouTube clip of 2 actors going back and forth with their impression of Michael Caine, and they're like, it gets very. What is the quote? Very something and very loudly. No, nothing. Anyway, Corey's gonna be upset. He's not home to tell me what I'm supposed to be saying. Okay, so we have Michael Caine as the older Zorro. Then we have Alan Rickman as Montero. And then finally, my last one, Capitan Love.
Capitan Love.
Love. Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, Love.
That's rich. Okay. We have the first person that came to my head was Phoebus from The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I don't know who that is.
The cartoon Phoebus, you know, The Hunchback of Notre Dame with Quasimodo and Esmeralda.
Mel
The
Gibson.
yellow soldier. Is he the voice of Phoebus?
Yeah.
He's
No.
a villain in real life.
No. Phoebus is John Smith in Pocahontas. Phoebus is, oh God, Kevin. He's in Pink Panther.
Dylan, I'm assuming you're looking this up.
He's in Pink Panther
looking
with
up the
Steve
character.
Martin. What is his name?
So wait, you're literally talking about the animated. You're not talking about whoever played this guy.
No, I'm
You're literally
talking about
this
the
animated
cartoon.
character.
Just the
character,
animated
yes.
character Phoebus.
Yeah. Phoebus.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he's my first pick. Second pick.
You just picked a guy who looks like Captain Love.
Yeah. Exactly. It's him.
And sounds like Kevin Kline.
Yes. Yep. That's it. That's perfect. My second pick, unfortunately, Kyle, I think only Dylan will understand this reference, is Jesse from 90 Day Fiance.
He is a true villain.
He's a true villain. He's got the long blonde hair. But lastly, and this is who I think I would really offer the role to first, is Chris Elliott.
What?
From SNL?
Elliott. Maybe
from
Chris
A
Elliott.
scary movie.
Yeah. Snowplow Man, you know,
Yes.
Chris Elliott. Corey, sorry guys, Corey just walked in. The Michael Caine, what's the line? It gets very, very specific and very loudly. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word specific. Very specific and very loudly. Anyway, so to recap, we've got Michael Caine as Old Zorro. We have Alan Rickman as Montero, and we've got Chris Elliott as Capitan Love. That's my pick, and I'm sticking with it.
Oh boy, Kyle, have you come up with anything?
Well, the problem, so I play games like this all the time, but it's always like modernizing it.
I'm still going the modern route. That's what I'm doing.
So I don't want to plug my own podcast because that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk to the both of you. Okay, so I don't know, Dylan, did you see my Willy Wonka song thing that I posted this week?
No, not yet.
I may have made a parody song I recently saw Wonka, and I have to say there's very few roles that I think you only have gotten right once. And this is to talk about modern cinema. Like there have been a bunch of different Zorros, like Gus Fairbanks, like you go all the way back, like a lot of different ones. And I think if we're doing all of time, I would keep Antonio Banderas, but the thing that I'm having a really hard time with is I would have to make it more representative of what it's supposed to be. Because I was thinking about this as I was watching it today, which was outside of Zorro, the Spanish or Mexican community's most recent film that was a superhero for all intents and purposes, that's what Zorro is, was Blue Beetle.
Fuck, are you about to copy exactly what I was about to say?
No, I wasn't going to cast George Lopez. But it's everything else around that. I like the idea of pivoting Antonio Banderas to being Don de la Vega, and then casting the actor who plays Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso as the new Zorro. Because
That's
I think
brilliant.
He's got the look. He's got gorgeous hair, which I think is equivalent for playing Zorro.
Yeah.
I see it, but my new Zorro, I'm going with the Blue Beetle actor himself, Xolo Maridueña.
Xolo Maridueña. Yeah, he would be very good.
Like, I think he's perfect for it.
It's true.
Ball is life, though.
Football is life. Football is life. Let's see. Okay, so as the governor, I'm trying to think, do you keep the tradition and just have it? So my Capitan Love, I want to be, who's the voice of Scar?
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons.
See, I thought about him for Montero, and then I was like, I can't have him be Montero.
No,
but he's too old now to be Captain Love, I feel like.
I guess I don't know. I'm playing both games. It's now.
Oh yes,
and
this
the
is
end
your
of time.
fantasy draft pick.
Well, who's Timothy Chalamet gonna play?
No, I
not
refuse to play that game.
not Willy Wonka.
No. Isn't Willy Wonka supposed to be old?
It's a prequel.
Fuck out of here with the prequel. All right. I'm not seeing it anyway, so.
Matt
Gene
Bomer
Wilder and
is
only
my
Gene
Captain
Wilder.
Love.
I love Matt
Ooh.
Bomer. He would have been a perfect Nightwing like 8 years ago.
My mom loves him. My mom found out he was gay and was devastated. And I was like, did you think you had a shot? Like, what are you so upset about?
I remember we talked about that briefly when we talked
Yeah.
about the nice guys, Kyle. And he's always one of those guys that I'm like, why are you not 10 times more famous? You're a good actor. He's a great looking guy. Why is he not dominating the silver screen and the big screen?
It's do I have them? It's because nobody watched the white collar show he was on.
Or
It was
Doom
so
Patrol,
good,
and he
though.
was great in that too.
Yeah, but he's the voice in Doom Patrol. That's
He's a
the
great
problem,
voice.
right? He is a great voice. He's also Ken from Magic Mike's. He was Ken in that. He was supposed to be in Barbie, but scheduling didn't allow for it. Let's see who's a good Governor Montero. I got it. It would be he was just King Triton. What's the Javier Bardem?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, very good.
That's who I would have that. And then Elena.
Or Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, that would be good. I can't say either of the people I'm thinking because they both just got canceled.
Damn. What if
Jessica Alba.
Jessica Alba?
Hmm.
Why not?
I don't know. Is that a fantasy draft pick or a current pick?
Again, we're dealing in all of time. Like if
So
all of time.
Again,
all
I'm
of
going
time.
I went full current.
Okay.
My Governor Montero is Damian Bashir.
Okay.
Which you may both be like, who the hell is that guy? He's been working a long time. I feel like he could bring the gravitas, the evil. If you watch him in The Nun, he's all about like just being very serious the entire time. And I could see him being villainish.
Okay.
Okay. Wow, Gab. Judge me, why don't you? Whatever. Go cast some more white people in your Zorro movie.
I will.
And
The whiter the
finally,
better.
for my Elena, I went with another person from Doom Patrol, Diane Guerrero.
Oh, she was in Orange is the New Black.
She was in that
And
too.
Encanto.
And Encanto.
She's great.
I think she would be very good for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd agree with that. Yeah, that was the highlight for me of watching this movie, was recasting it, the recast of Zorro.
I do love the idea of Antonio Banderas being kept. Now, I was going to talk about this in the facts, but again, I'm going to bring it up now. Antonio Banderas was asked this same exact question in an interview of, one, would you come back to Zorro? And he said, sure, I'd do the Anthony Hopkins role. And two, who would you cast as Zorro? Who do you guys think Antonio Banderas said?
When was the interview?
It was for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, so it's fairly recent.
A couple years ago? Did he say Pedro Pascal?
He did not.
Then I'm out.
Oscar Isaac?
He did not, which those were literally my wife's two guesses when I played this game with her.
Gabriel, what's his name? He was just in the Halloween Marvel thing.
Gael Garcia Bernal or something
That's
like
the
that?
guy, yeah.
Nope.
He didn't say Xolo Maridueña.
Nope.
Is it a white guy?
Is it Timothy Chalamet?
Nope.
That's
But
what I
you're
was thinking.
closer. It's Tom Holland.
Oh, that's my next guess was gonna no. He already ruined
I think it's because he
Uncharted.
was thinking of Uncharted. He goes, well, I worked with him on Uncharted, so I'd say Tom Holland. He's energetic and fun. I'm like, bro, no, Tom Cruise called and he said, you can't have him play that.
Oh boy, that's crazy. You know what though? In fairness, being put on the spot like that, I could understand how you'd be like, I can't think of anybody.
Yes, I picture him just being like, name someone you know who's young.
Yeah, exactly. But that is crazy. Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. All jokes aside, like let's keep it in the family, you know? All right. Well, Dill, I don't know about you, but I'm ready for some facts.
Kyle, is it time for some facts?
I think it's some time for some facts.
I want the truth! Face the facts, dokes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Let's start where we normally do with our ratings. On IMDb, this movie has a 6.8. On Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter gives it an 84%, with an average rating of 7.2 out of 10, 66 fresh reviews, and 13 rotten. An audience score of 73%, with an average score of 3.7 out of 5. It had a budget of $95 million. It grossed $250 million. The critics' consensus: Banderas returns as an aging Zorro, which already I feel like the critics' consensus is wrong. Banderas returns as an aging Zorro in the surprisingly nimble, entertaining swashbuckler.
Kyle, when you hear the word swashbuckler, what do you picture in your mind's eye?
A man with a mustache and a sword.
Not a pirate?
I think a pirate, but I definitely think swordplay too.
I
Like,
didn't specify what the job was, Gab. I just said man with a mustache and a sword.
Is it a pirate?
He could be.
Man with a mustache and a sword. He can't be an accountant. He's only going to be a pirate or a swashbuckler of some kind. Yeah.
Or a substitute teacher.
I think
What?
fair. I think all pirates are swashbucklers, but not all swashbucklers are pirates.
I think that's fair.
I'm Michael Caine. All swashbucklers.
We learn to pick ourselves back up.
What do we do when we swashbuckle, Master White? What did some critics say here? Roger Ebert gave the movie 3 stars. He said, "The Mask of Zorro has something you don't often see in modern action pictures, a sense of honor." Which, I'm going to be honest, when I copied and pasted that earlier, I thought it said a sense of humor, which made more sense at the time. Still good, though.
Yeah.
James Berardinelli from Real Views offers just what one might reasonably expect from a Zorro movie: a great deal of excitement and adventure, all brought to the screen by using a somewhat irreverent tone that keeps the mood light without trivializing the characters.
I'll agree with that.
Mick LaSalle from San Francisco Chronicle: "The story is not important. The clash of swords, the leaps, the tumbles, it's all very nice. But after 136 minutes, it becomes a bit much." It's like, okay, bro. And last one, Peter Travers from Rolling Stone: "Banderas and Hopkins prove that there's life in the Z-Boy yet. But by leaving in the dull patches, the filmmakers may find audiences catching Z's in ways they never intended." Which, kudos to him for getting Z's in there in a punny way.
I suppose.
You mean Zed?
Yes, for getting Zed in there in a punny way. What else I have here? Before we get to our fun facts, we already mentioned it was directed by Martin Campbell, who also directed The Legend of Zorro, Green Lantern, GoldenEye, and Casino Royale. It was written by John Escow, Ted Elliott, and Terry Rossio, who also wrote Pink Cadillac, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, and Dead Man's Chest, Shrek, Aladdin, and Small Soldiers. And based on the character Zorro, created by Johnston McCulley, as we said, in 1919. I feel like we already mentioned a bunch of these things. Starring Antonio Banderas as Alejandro, who you may know from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Desperado, Spy Kids. Did I cover his biggest things that we mentioned before?
Yeah.
Okay. Anthony Hopkins as Don Diego de la Vega, who you may also know from Silence of the Lambs, Rebel Moon Part 1, and Westworld. Catherine Zeta-Jones as Elena, who you may know from Chicago, Entrapment, and Ocean's 12. Stuart Wilson as Don Rafael Montero, who you may know from Hot Fuzz, Lethal Weapon 3, and Crossworlds. And lastly, Matt Lesher as Captain Love, who you may know more recently as Reverse Flash from the Flash TV show and Legends of Tomorrow.
And Darcy from 90 Day Fiancé.
Jesse, you mean, from 90 Day Fiancé.
No, yeah, well, but known as Darcy's boyfriend. Okay. So hit us with the fun ones.
Okay. It was nominated for Academy Awards for Best Sound Effects Editing and Best Sound. Despite being one of the main antagonists of the film that has a personal rivalry with Alejandro, Matt Lesher, who played Captain Love, admitted that it was hard to act with hatred against Antonio Banderas since he was such a genuinely nice guy in real life.
Oh,
which I thought was nice.
That is nice.
Raul Julia was up to play Don Diego de la Vega, but died before he was able to take the role.
Oh, yikes. Same with Alan Rickman in my draft.
Well, this was your fantasy draft. He still died then?
No, I guess not.
Damn,
he's got the
Reaper.
He's got the best line in Street Fighter.
Oh, for
what is it?
It's
for
like
you, the day that Bison came to your village was the worst day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday.
Yep.
He also looks just like my dad when he plays the dad from the Addams Family. When he plays Gomez Adams, I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
That's amazing.
What else?
Send me a picture of that, Dill.
I will. Anthony Hopkins impersonates Bernardo, Zorro's butler, in the original stories. Zorro was a major inspiration for Batman, and Bernardo became Alfred Pennyworth. Hopkins was also offered the role in Batman Begins, which went on to go to Michael Caine.
Yes.
During the stable fight scene, when Elena's dress is cut off, the effect was done by attaching a wire to the dress and just yanking it.
Makes sense.
Pretty simple, but it's effective.
Yeah.
Again, take this with a grain of salt. Shakira was offered the role of Elena, allegedly.
Have I ever told you how much I absolutely fucking hate Shakira?
Why?
I have venom for Shakira. I just think the audacity to sound like that and go on to use it to make money. I just think it's so bad.
Well, I feel like when
I
you hear
hate it.
other songs of hers, you find out that she doesn't sound like that in every song.
No,
I don't
she
know.
does.
She had a song in Zootopia like 7 years ago, and it's the same as all the other ones.
It's like a goat. You know, she was recently attacked by a wild boar.
What?
She was. Look it up. And you know what? It was the best day of my life. I was
That
like,
better
good.
be true. You're bringing that in the fact segment, and I find that hard
It
to
is
believe.
true. Google it. Do your research. Continue.
I'm sorry I didn't research Shakira boars before this.
It's all right, but next time you know.
The title of this movie is the same as the last Zorro story written by Johnston McCulley, which was published in the April 1959 issue of the pulp magazine Short Stories for Men.
Thank
Kyle
you.
has pulled up a headline: Shakira attacked by a pair of wild boars. It is real.
Thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, they didn't really take it all the way, but you know, they started the war.
Talk about the magazine Short Stories for Men. Was this the precursor to Spike TV? What the fuck is that? No more of these feminine romance novels. These short stories for men.
I mean, I feel like at some point they probably were like a lot of these pulp characters were like newspaper clipping characters first.
That makes sense.
And I've only got one more thing here because we already mentioned Tom Cruise. During post-production, Steven Spielberg and director Martin Campbell decided that Don Diego de la Vega's death in the arms of his daughter was too depressing. The ending, where Alejandro and Elena are happily married with their infant son, was added 3 months after filming had ended, because the original ending was after he dies, them sort of just going and meeting with Governor Santa Anna, saying that like nobody's buying California and California would remain part of the country.
Wow. Thank God they changed that.
It
Thank
works,
God. Like it
you know,
matters,
not to sound
but
like George
it's better.
Lucas. It's like poetry, it rhymes, because the beginning is Anthony Hopkins telling the story to his daughter. It ends with Alejandro telling the story to his child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, that's all my facts.
I have one that's not in your facts.
Ooh.
Tell us, share.
So I think it's probably one of my favorite shots in the whole film, which is just as he's about to fight Capitan Love at the very end, he draws his sword, and just as he's like adjusting, there's that glint of sunlight off of the blade.
I didn't write this down. I did have this.
That was Antonio's idea. They got it in the take.
It only took them 3 tries to do it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we were talking about our history with the film. My parents have a deck that had a set of stairs, and because I live in Canada and we get lots of snow, I would recreate his like snowboarding with a shovel down the stairs into my backyard.
That's
Did
amazing.
you ever hurt yourself terribly doing that?
Not doing that, other things, but not doing that.
I will say that was the one moment where I was like, this is as close to Zorro jumping the shark as we get. He's riding a shovel down, and I'm like, well, clearly this thing is strapped to his feet somehow, and it looks preposterous. Like
I guess did it. It's friction and gravity. You bought the horse jumping, but not pushing down a shovel?
100%. 100% the shovel thing. I was like,
literally
this is
Dylan
too
jumping the
much.
horse. It's a land-based animal, not a shark.
You're right, but the shovel thing was like a little too much for me, where I was like, this feels preposterous. I guess it's only because it feels more ridiculous if after Captain Love falls down that, incline, if we see Zorro just carefully stepping his way down, like, I'm gonna stab you, stay there. Like,
don't move, I'm coming. Oh my God.
Don't run away. Stop it.
Hey, listen.
Hang on. Oh my God. Well, I think that's going to take us right into some mail.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
Okay, not much mail here, so let's get to it. We've got first an email from our musical composer himself. You know him from the Moonstruck episode, Scott Interrante. Can I say his last name?
Yeah, you were
I already
right,
said his name. It's okay.
No, that's right. Interrante.
Is the podcast
Oh,
over?
can you say that?
I think I've said it before, and he was on the podcast before. It's too late.
You can say it.
I've doxed you, Scott. What's your address? Is the podcast over? How can the show go on after Dylan blocked Christmas Vacation from being a movie to watch before you die?
I completely agree.
And to that, I say, fuck you, individual listener. That is my right.
Is that all he said?
Yes, that was his entire email. The devastation.
I mean, I completely agree. Dylan, it's a fucking wonderful movie, and I don't want to rehash it. I don't want to rehash it.
It is perfectly fine and better than Vacation. And I stand by that.
Okay, what's next?
We got
Scott,
some comments.
I agree with you fully.
From another Scott, this show's favorite Scott, the one and only Scotty Cameron.
I don't know that I totally agree with that, but okay.
You have to agree with that. He sends in something every week. Scott doesn't send in
That's
something
true.
every week.
That is also true.
I fought for you, Scotty. You're welcome. Scotty says, at 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 54 seconds, who's the most evil dictator if Hitler didn't exist then? I can't believe we've gone back to this. It definitely has to be Stalin or Mao, because despite having killed more people than Hitler, many historians don't consider those dictators to be as evil as Hitler, because Hitler had worse ambitions than Stalin and Mao. I might have to lean more towards Stalin, getting that distinction, than Mao, because the Ukrainian famine, or Holodomor, or as it's colloquially known, the genocide famine, is the world's largest and worst man-made famine in history. Stalin killed 5 million people within the time span of a year by sabotaging Ukraine's food supplies because the Ukrainians weren't on board with Stalin's forced collectivization. First of all, super evil.
Very evil. I was
Mao?
I was adjusting my nose ring.
Sure you were.
Look. You can see the post underneath. So what happens is it sticks me in my septum, and I get these like really bad nosebleeds because it like pokes into me. So I have to adjust it so it doesn't hit the tender part.
Would you say you were picking it out of the place it was in?
I would agree with that. Yeah. But I do it all the time, and like I forget that people can see me. So I apologize, but I was not picking a booger out of my nose. I was picking the nose ring away from the tender spot.
That as long as I was able to get you to admit it in this mail.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Good. Mao is a close. Let's get back to the dictator's horrible things now that we're done with nose picking.
Yes.
Mao is a close second in this hypothetical reality because of the gross negligence and sabotaging of crops that took place during the Great Leap Forward. Sorry, tankies, these are objective facts. Your favorite dictators are monsters, and continuing to stand dictators will just further undermine any legitimate causes you support. That's why I, as a leftist, feel obligated to repudiate any tanky dictator hero worship. How does that make you feel, Gab? You fucking dictator lover.
Fine. Makes me feel fine. I don't
What does
feel
Mrs. Potato
anything.
call Mr. Potato when he's being an asshole? A
What?
dictator.
That's good. That's
Thank
really
you.
good. Yeah, very good.
Let's get to Scotty's next comment. 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 4 seconds. Mussolini co-authored The Doctrine of Fascism with Giovanni Gentile, which inspired Hitler's government, and Mussolini was the first fascist dictator. Yeah. Mussolini's government had many political opponents imprisoned or killed, and his government monopolized the press and education to do propaganda for the government. Mussolini also invaded Ethiopia, which started the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, which resulted in the Italians imposing a brutal occupation on Ethiopia and killed just over 1 million Ethiopians, I want to say. I know
never heard of
Mussolini's
this.
death tolls greatly dwarf those of Stalin, Mao, and Hitler, as do Lenin's and Francisco Franco's death tolls. Still, Mussolini, a very brutal dictator.
Wow. You know, who picks up fight with Ethiopia? Like, that's the definition of pick on somebody your own size. You know what I mean?
The next comment from Scotty Cameron. I don't know how to respond to that, Cam.
I don't understand. I didn't say anything wrong.
It just sounds so ridiculous. How am I supposed to respond to that?
I don't know.
Scotty Cameron at 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 52 seconds. I could hear the clip. It's a very Jamie thing to use Saw to misdirect attention to me, given that he associates Saw with me. The first Saw is a good movie. I also like the second one and surprisingly the 10th Saw. Usually installment 10 is when a franchise jumps the shark like Friday the 13th and Fast and Furious did. I guess Saw managed to not do that. There were some terrible saws along the way to 10, like the final chapter where Linkin Park frontman, the late great Chester Bennington, is a skinhead who has to peel his back off to save his girlfriend, which is a bit ironic since Chester was the complete opposite of a skinhead in real life. I must know, was Dr. Gordon / Carrie Elwes in the video Teen Machine, Mark Aquino, or Pedro? I think it was Brian.
Yeah, I think it was Brian too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, we have one more comment from William Norden, which I hope people are fine with me saying their full names because YouTube gives me the full name. So you were okay with it being on YouTube, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. And William Norden said, since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny fucking Kaye, get it right.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. What did I say? Fred Astaire? You know, it was
I
close.
don't know, but he was adamant about it. So,
Bing
William,
Crosby.
you now got to hear the right version.
Yeah, William, thank you so much. I apologize. Awesome. So I take it William agrees with me based on his knowledge of the quote. So
I would guess so,
Could've been.
but William can also
could have
be
been a
wrong.
movie to watch before you die.
Gab? Maybe I'll reconsider it. That's the same bullshit you say about the thing all the time.
Yeah, and I would. Tell me to watch it again. I gotta
No.
watch it with Corey.
There's a billion movies out there, Gab, and we're not going to spend weeks reconsidering them. Damn
All
it.
right, well then stop belly aching about it.
Yeah, but it just made me really upset. I
All
really
right, can
like
we
that
move on?
movie. Yeah, I
Can
guess
we-
we should get back to some verdicts for The Mask of Zorro.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence.
Death.
Since this is our verdicts, Kyle, you're going to go first since you nominated this movie. Just once again reiterate, do you believe and why do you believe The Mask of Zorro is a movie to watch before you die?
I would say one of the things that makes this special is the uniqueness of this brand, particularly as swashbuckling and not starring pirates. There are so few films like this, particularly in the 20th, if not 21st century, of action, adventure, practicality, and simplicity that you don't really get. And the fact that, again, we're watching this, 25 years after it came out? No, 35. No, 25. It's 25.
Please not 35.
I can't math. It's 1998. It's 25 years. And I've probably seen this 30 times and I never get bored. It's funny, it's entertaining, and the simplicity of the characters' storylines just makes them easy to follow. It's not up its own butt with complicated Game of Thrones level stories. It's a pure revenge tale that ends in two characters redeeming themselves and having doling out justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like I should go next because I feel like I'm a bit more obvious than you are.
Yeah, please.
This movie immediately took me to a place where I had forgotten about, and I was like, I really felt such joy watching the sword fighting, watching Antonio Banderas just ooze charisma on screen, watching what I didn't know, dancing and swordplay could be basically a softcore sex scene, because I was like, oh my God, I can feel the tension from here. And I bought every single thing except for a man's ride on a shovel. And you know what? That's enough for me to call it a movie to watch before you die. So we leave it up to Gab, who will now be the deciding vote.
Yikes. I'll say this. I went into this very excited to watch this movie because as soon as Dylan said it, I was like, I loved this movie. I had it on VHS. We used to sword fight. I remember like watching it and trying to get the move so that I could come in and kick ass on our next sword fight. And then I saw it was 2 hours and 17 minutes. And I was like, this has taken up a large part of my day. I really hope this is worth it. And there were moments of really I'm in. And then there were moments of all right, come on. I'm looking at my watch. I kind of got to pee. Should I pause it? Should I not? What's happening? And by the end, I was very satisfied. I thought it was very nice. It was good. It was really entertaining, but I just couldn't shake this, I needed it to be a little bit more concise. And that's not to say I'm not splitting hairs here. I'm saying that I got to a point where I was like, how do we still have 45 minutes left of this movie? I was like, this is really moving kind of slow for me. And maybe it's because it's due to the fact that the story is pretty simple. So all of these details just felt like, yes, I get it. I get it. I get it. Come on. Like I just, every moment that they weren't sword fighting, I wanted more sword fighting. Like I didn't want to see the love scene between the two of them. I didn't want to know about who was going to be where. I just
The love
wanted
scene between the
action.
two of them is sword fighting, Gab.
I know, but it wasn't good enough. I wanted
She loses her
venom.
clothes.
I know, and I didn't care. I just wanted to know what was going to happen.
Gab, are you saying no? Are you saying no?
Here's the problem, Dylan. Okay, here's the problem. Now that we've
38. It's a
had,
good age. Look at Antonio.
I know it really was. I talking about it with you now, I want to say yes. But when I was actively watching the movie, I paused it to see how much longer was left, saw there was 45 minutes and was like, God damn it. So I don't think I can say yes.
Kyle, I
And
gotta
I
tell you, I
feel
think she's making an egregious mistake.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. I'm mentally trying to figure out what is at 45 minutes. Like left.
Can we look that up?
Yeah, I can do it really quickly on my phone.
Yeah. Because and the thing was that last scene with the mine and the are they going to get it in time and the fuse, like it was all very exciting. But all that stuff in the middle was like, Jesus Christ.
Okay, so for the record, you were complaining about. So here's
This is
the
with
thing
45 minutes left.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm looking at it right now. The sequence at 45 minutes left, I would argue, is the best sequence of the whole movie, which
What is
is
it?
when the giant flaming Zed is there and we actually see Antonio dressed up as Zorro.
So the first time he's in
So
costume as
I-
actual Zorro is when
He's
you're
like, "Oh,
like,
he's got-
God, I'm checked out.
No. Then I'm mistaken because it was before that. It was
Oh, you are mistaken,
1,000% before that.
Terribly mistaken.
Oh,
Listen-
you know what it is? I'm willing to bet. Sorry, Gab. Was it when De La Vega was trying to not connect but reconnect with his daughter when they were petting a horse?
Yes.
That's halfway into the movie.
Yes.
Really?
Oh,
It's
Because I
about-
think
yes.
that scene is great.
I agree with you, Dylan. It's
I
about 10
just-
minutes before the like I don't know. I think what's funny is you watch, I mean, in general, I watch probably a new movie every 2 weeks, if not more. You guys are revisiting stuff. And so I think you can appreciate this too. I see where Gab is coming from. I think the pacing of this certainly feels like it's a 25-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Like I completely respect that, but I think given the simplicity of the relationships, I would disagree because I think each conversation has to matter because the elevation of the stakes with the fight scenes are like so well done. To this day, I will never be bored of watching Antonio Banderas fight two people at the same time. Like it happens, I think 3 times technically in the movie, but when he's fighting Capitan Love and Raphael at the same time, like even with the film like Pirates of the Caribbean, which like it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about the practicality natures, Dylan. Like that you have like CGI skeletons and that ups the stakes because they can't die. But I think the pacing of this, it's definitely more methodical, like in between the action sequences. So like I don't think you're crazy. I think you're wrong, but
Sure. That's fine. I think really maybe what it comes down to also is now that I think about it, I didn't like Raiders of the Lost Ark and I didn't like Pirates of the Caribbean. Maybe I just don't
You didn't like
this
the Mummy
type of
on this
movie.
podcast.
I didn't like the Mummy.
Gab hates
I think-
all kind of swashbuckling.
I'm not a
A swashbuckler.
I'm not a swashbuckler.
have you seen Prince of Persia starring Jake Gyllenhaal? So skip
No.
that one.
Yeah, I will. Don't worry. I loved this movie as a kid, but it really didn't hit. It didn't hit. I'm sorry. And I really wanted to. I went in excited and it just didn't hold up for me. But that's a personal problem. But now it's a personal problem for all of us because it ain't going on the list.
No, that's
It has to be unanimous.
For
Oh,
me and Kyle.
interesting.
Yeah, it has to be unanimous.
I think that's interesting. Do you have your own lists for this
Of
as well?
movies to
No, like
recommend to one another.
No, but like so as you do this, like if let's whatever. I'm assuming Dylan also would have put Raiders. So it's like, if you think it is one and then you don't, do you each have like counteracting lists? Like, I think,
Nope.
no, interesting.
In our
Okay.
descriptions,
One
there's just a
list.
movie, a list of movies that Dylan and Gab agree are movies to watch before you die, which hurts me deeply because I feel like I bring it up often. The fact that The Thing is not on that list deeply upsets me.
I
The
have
John
told
Carpenter
you.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I've told you we can revisit whatever you want because I've thought about that movie all the time. But guess what movie is on that list? Vampire's Kiss. Perfection. Perfection. I think about it all the time. I live in New York City and I often see homeless people and I'm like, yeah, I get it. He thinks he's a vampire.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I finished watching this movie last night and I was like, oh, that's definitely a movie to watch before you die. Not only is that a movie to watch before you die, I'm adding that to a list of movies I need to buy like on physical media, so I own that and can watch it anytime. Because I was
I
very
just
upset
bought
that
it on
it's not
4K. It's so pretty on 4K.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
I'm really sorry, you guys. I don't. I wanted. I wanted.
I'm
this
gonna
to
add
be
a little
movie to watch
blurb
before you
below
die.
that says movies Dylan and Kyle you should watch before you die and Gab was wrong about.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I really
Is the
thought I was
list
gonna
on
love
every
this.
episode? Oh,
It
look up
is
here.
as it grows.
It's
Yeah.
posted at the end of every episode. Oh, here we go.
In the description for every episode is the updated list for that episode based on
Yeah.
the results of last episode. Which we've got some great movies that I'm sure we each agree are great that are not on the list because we didn't agree upon it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, you could have went with somebody else, but you chose me, Dill, and you're gonna get what you get.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I guess we should let Kyle, you gotta promote yourself now. We gotta talk about the
Plug.
Film Reelists a little bit here.
I got to promote myself. Okay. So Film Realist is the film and TV podcast from a complete nobody that is hopefully for somebody. So if you are a general film fan and TV fan, you can find me on every social media platform known to mankind. The podcast is literally on all of them. Hive, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, Vero. I think I have a Facebook page. I don't know. That one I might not have edited recently. So there are weekly episodes where I will cover the latest and greatest blockbusters or television series. I recently reviewed Wonka and may have dressed up like Willy Wonka and recorded a parody song. So you can check that on all the social medias. It's on all the things. I am this next. So I don't know, when's this airing?
2 weeks from the day we recorded. Like the Friday, 2 weeks after.
Okay, so the 5th?
Probably.
Okay. I'm trying to
Yes.
think. I don't even know what I will be. I'll probably be reviewing Reacher season 2. I think.
Cool.
I have to check my
check
schedule.
the Film Realist to see if that's what actually happened.
Yeah,
And can
I
we
don't
say,
know.
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick, your little tagline for your podcast is better than any of the taglines that the Mask of Zorro came up with.
Thank you very much. I worked on. It's funny because anytime I have one of my guests on, they're like, "You're so mean to yourself." I'm like, "I mean, in the realm of the thing, like not the movie, because that should be one you watch before you die."
I'll revisit.
But it's, I don't know. I mean, I went to film school and then wound up doing something completely different. So
As we
I'm
do.
typically more critical of the average film, but in general, and I have some fun guests. I have had Melody on the show more than a handful of times. So if you want to hear a 5-year-old review Super Mario,
Oh,
that's there
I'm
for
going
you.
to check out that episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the reason I saw Wonka. So
Melody said
That's
Super
awesome.
Mario, shallow and pedantic.
I'm trying to think. Did she like? Yeah, she liked Super Mario. Like, really quickly, Melody's on Super Mario, Little Mermaid, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. There's probably another one. She didn't make the Wonka episode. I recorded it when she was sleeping.
Aw.
So I have a bunch of stuff. If you are in the backlog, we talked about Rebel Moon. I have seen that already. So an episode will be coming out before this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. We're all going to check it out. Thank you so much for coming on. This was great.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm sad it's not on the list.
I know.
Yeah,
Try
me
again
too.
next time.
Me too.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Dill, what do we tell the people at the end of these?
You can email us at movies2watch@gmail.com. You can send a voice message at anchor.fm/movies to watch. You can find our great friends in the Hall of Pods podcasting network at the link tree below in the description, and you can find more of our links in the link tree below in the description. And you can not find the Mask of Zorro in our description for Movies to Watch Before You Die.
Sorry, guys. But you know what? Maybe next time we'll do Spy Kids. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. This was awesome. Kyle, thank you for coming on. Everybody, make sure you check out the Film Realist. And thanks so much.
Gab is a madman. Help us, save us. That's a deep cut Spy Kids reference. I hope you get it.
Thank you. I do.
Do you know how to use that thing?
Yes. The pointy end goes into the other man.